I'm going to tell you this story in 3 parts, and I don't need to read it because it just happened to me and other people in this room, Chat by Sean. I'm going to tell this story in 3 parts. There's going to be a prologue, and then there'll be the main body of the story, and then a very short epilogue, which I hate that word, epilogue. It sounds like a stick that you hit your face with when you have bad pores or something. Oh, look, my skin is all kind of, whack me with the epilogue. But it'll be short. We should be out of here in about an hour and a half. So the story is going to begin and end with my wife. She has a huge role in the story, and you'll see why. But so here's the prologue. So a few months ago, my wife lost her wedding ring for the 2nd time. So you should know my wife is allergic to jewelry, and not like she got to wear the hypoallergenic earrings, and like jewelry just runs away from her. I don't know if she's eating it or pawning it or what, but she cannot keep it. When we got married a few years ago, my mother-in-law gave her great-grandmother's wedding ring and said, I would like you to wear this for the family. And she did for many years, and then she lost it. And then 2 years ago, my mother-in-law said, Cheryl, this is, and I should tell you, I'm going to, out of respect for my wife's privacy, I'm going to call her Cheryl. Because that's her name. But so Cheryl, her mother told her, I'm going to give you this ring. This is my mother's wedding ring, and this one is very close to me. This is one of the last things I have of my mom, and don't lose this one. So about 3 months ago, she lost that one. And she was in the bushes, cutting weeds and cutting vines and invasive species and all kinds of good things. And at some point, she realized she didn't have her ring on anymore, and she was devastated. And she went back with one of her employees, and they had a metal detector, and they looked, and they didn't find it. And the next day, I went back with her with a metal detector, and we looked, and we didn't find it. And then the 3rd day, I went back by myself, and I just talked to the ancestors, and I said, listen, if this ring is the price of us living in this beautiful place, then so be it. But if you don't need that ring, she is so brokenhearted. You guys got to give back that ring. And I never heard anything back, so we just moved on. Around the same time, I got a call from the Library of Congress, which everybody here knows how that goes. A couple of years ago, I got a grant from the Library of Congress to do some archival work, and what I did was I went searching for old and unrecorded songs of Kohala, and I found some, and I'm happy to say as of last month, that collection is online, and those songs are safe forever in the Library of Congress. So good for those families, good for all of us. So I began a relationship with the Library of Congress folks, and then a few months ago, they called me and said, we want to put together a symposium for 2 days, a Thursday and Friday in April. We'll fly you up. Several of the other grantees are coming, and you guys are going to give presentations. We're going to show your work. We're going to show your documentary that you made as well as the archival project. And one night, we're going to have a concert. Would you be interested in participating? And that's how they put it. And so I said, absolutely, I want to be in, because I'm thinking, I know some of the other grantees. I know some of the other cultures that are represented. There's the Huma people from Louisiana. There's some Lao folks who live in the Bayou country. And man, I'm going to be able to rub elbows with these other musicians and hear stuff I'd never heard. I'm going to learn some cool stuff. So yeah, I'm in, totally. So okay, we'll get the ball rolling. We'll talk to the staff. We'll get in a Zoom call next week, and we'll work out the details. Cool, but I'm in. So next week, they get on a Zoom call with me, and before anything starts, I said, listen, before you guys get started, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so could you tell me what you need from me? Do I do like one song and then get off, or 2 songs and get off? Do you want me to do a song and then stay on the stage and just help, just back everybody else up? How is this going to work? And they looked at each other, and then looking on the screen, they said, no, you don't understand. We want a whole concert of just boots. Oh, no, I said yes already. Huh? And the whole show, hour and a half. Like, this is not how I thought this was going to go at all. But so, okay, now I'm trying to be cool because they've already started this ball rolling and I don't want to panic them. So I said, well, can I at least bring my band? And so, yeah, we're going to pay for you guys. We're going to fly you up, take care of you. You bring as many guys as you want. Like, all right, good on. We get off the call and like, now I got to find one band. So the first call I made was to Chad Paishan, of course, because we've played together before. And I love Chad. And he said yes. And then I found a couple other guys that I didn't even know, like Charlie Ricardo, as a recommendation from Adam Palia back there. And a bass player named Brian McCree, who's one of the best jazz bass players on the island, if not the best. So we put this band together and we started rehearsing. There wasn't a lot of time. Everybody had commitments, so rehearsals were few and far between when we could get everybody in the same room. And to their credit, everybody said yes when I explained what I was trying to do. And what I was trying to do was not just go to DC and sing the songs of Kohala and tell the stories of how I found those songs, but I wanted to tell a deeper story about Hawaiian music. And that story was the second half of a story that most people know already, which is then the first, maybe in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the world discovered Hawaiian music. And especially America went crazy for Hawaiian music, and it influenced all of the major American musical forms: blues, jazz, country, folk, bluegrass. As the archivist Kylan Reese says, if you look in any one of those family trees, there's at least one Hawaiian, and it's true. And so I wanted to play some Hawaiian music that sounded like blues and country and jazz, and I wanted to play some country and blues and folk that sounded like Hawaiian music. And I wanted those people to understand that our musics are very similar for a real reason. And that is, after America was influenced by our music and grew their own music, decades later, Americans came to Hawaii in droves. First, the military was stationed here, and then steamship travel opened up, clipper ship. Americans moved here in droves, and they brought their music, not knowing that that music was not their music, but that was our music. And the interesting thing is when they played that music here, the Hawaiian musicians of the day here heard that and thought, yeah, I like that. I'm going to put that in my music. And they started to incorporate that music into their music, not knowing that was already their music. So in a real way, there's this reciprocal influence thing happening. And I kind of think of it as a wave that washed off our beach and then traveled across the Pacific, and it washed up their beach. And then as it washed back down their beach, it collected all these different things that it didn't have before, and then it came back across the ocean to us. And as it rolled up our beach, we saw all these different things, but we still recognized that that wave is ours. And so the music that we hear today, Hawaiian music, is really a product of that, and that's fascinating to me. And I wanted them to know that story, and I wanted them to hear examples of that, because I thought, especially now in a time where everybody's so divided, I thought, if we can at least start from a place of respect and recognizing that we're not all that dissimilar, maybe we can have better conversations and treat each other better. Maybe, I don't know. But it was worth a shot. Every one of the guys I told said, hey, I love that idea, I'm in. I'll do it for free. And I said, Library of Congress is paying us, and I made a point of checking, and it's not federal money, it's melon funds, so we're safe. We're actually going to get paid. So we started rehearsing, and my wife, Cheryl, who has a day job, she acted as our business manager. And while we were getting the music together, she was finding hotels and finding flights. She was scanning our passports to do enhanced TSA pre-check, because walking through the airports with our gear and our equipment that looked like bombs, we couldn't have, we didn't want to be stopped. So she did tons of work. And then we dropped it on her that, oh yeah, we also want you to dance hula at the show at the Library of Congress. And she agreed, and she doesn't make very good decisions, clearly. So she went about learning the song, and she worked really hard to learn this song. And so she did all this work, and consequently, about a week before the show is happening, and all the band is going to fly together, we're all going to fly up to DC. She leaves a few days earlier to go to Florida to meet her mom, who's coming up to the concert. She and her mom are going to make lei for the band, because I wanted old style, big fat red carnation leis, like you see in all the old 50s and 60s bands. I mean, it was good enough for them, good enough for us. Kahuana Lake Trio, I'm in. So they go and they make the lei, and when she flies to Florida, where her mom was, she hadn't told her mom that she had lost her ring yet. I know. And don't go ahead. Don't read ahead. And so as soon as she saw her mom was like, Cheryl, what happened to your ring? And the two of them started crying, and the waterworks, and a bad day, and clouds, and it was just wasn't good. But they got through it, and they made our lay, and they came to D.C. And the symposium happened. The first day went great. They loved the documentary, great. No time for resting, straight to the venue, sound check, get in the back there. The band brought your uniform, put your clothes on, get ready to play. We get on stage, the place is packed. The place is packed, which is such an honor. The venue, the Coolidge Theater at the Hamilton Building, I think, Library of Congress, is a really old, beautiful venue, and everybody's played there, from Jelly Roll Morton to Dolly Parton to Lionel Richie, all kinds of folks, and now the Kohala Mountain Boys, our band. But it was kind of overwhelming. We walked out, and this place was packed, and we got on stage, and we started playing, and they loved it. And I'm telling stories, and they're enjoying the stories. And at some point, and I talked to Chad, and I know he felt the same way. At some point, I realized that it wasn't just us four on stage. I could feel all the ancestors crowding on that stage. It was beautiful to know that we weren't by ourselves. And it went much better than I would have expected. So we get all the way through the concert, and I'm telling stories of the songs that we're playing. At some point, I played like a Sam Cooke song, and I explained to the people that this is a song by a very famous Hawaiian artist, Sam Cooke. And they all look at me, and I say, well, originally his name was Sam Kukahiko, but the record company, they couldn't say the name. They just cut it, and so now we know him as Sam Cooke. And they was all right with that, and we sang the song. I told the band as we were preparing for this, I said, we're going to do this song, Come On Over by Hui Ohana. They all, hey, Hui Ohana, this is awesome, this is a classic. I said, yeah, but they didn't write it. It was written by the Bee Gees. And they're like, what? And all three guys wanted to fight with me. That's a Hawaiian song no matter what you say. Like, it was written by the Bee Gees. But be glad, because turns out the Bee Gees, BG doesn't stand for Brothers Gibb. Turns out they're Hawaiian too. Brown Guys is the name of the band. That's all Hawaiian. So Hawaiian's every place. So we get to the concert, we get to the very end of the concert, and we say our thank yous, we get off stage, we start to get off stage, and we hear everybody yelling, Hanaho, encore, it wants to. Thankfully, we had one more song in our pocket, because I was hoping that would happen, so we get back on the stage, and we start to set up the song, and sitting right here, right in front of me, in the first row, this whole time was this big Hawaiian guy, crazy Willie K kind of hair, this big utubangi hair. That's what we call it, utubangi. I don't know what it is. Huge white beard, and he just this look on his face like he bites somebody. He's leaning in, and he's shooting pictures, and he's leaning in, looking at me the whole time. And whatever I say, like, yeah, that's right, bro. Choo! He's the big fella. And so as we start to set up the song, I say the song we're about to play is by the most famous Hawaiian artist of all time. And immediately this guy goes, Gabby Pahinui, whoo! And I said, no, more famous than Gabby. He looks at me like, what you say? I said, Willie Nelson. So he's looking at me, I said, Willie Nelson, bro. Listen, I've heard a couple versions of the story, but I know it's true. Some people say his original name was Mauna Willie Nelson. I heard also that his name was Willie Nalawai, but the record company, they cannot say the names. So boom, it is Willie Nelson now. You cannot tell me that guy not Hawaiian. He spent his whole life as an outlaw, long white beard, smoked pakalolo all the time. That is a Hawaiian right there. So we sang Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, and they loved it. That was our second standing ovation, right? 2 standing ovations. So we're beyond happy at this point. We all get up to leave, and I turn to the mic and I say, actually, I lied. I have one more thing. And I realized early on that the songs we were playing, they all kind of had a thing that kind of kept them glued together, and the sound of the band, the 4-piece. And I didn't want people to go home thinking, okay, I know what these Hawaiians can do. I get it. I wanted to throw them a curve and say, well, you thought you knew what we could do, but here's something else that you need to consider now. And so I had told the bass player, Mr. Great Jazz Bassist himself, I said, Brian, I want to do a jazz classic. I want to do a standard, but I want to do it with just you playing the bass and then me just singing and nothing else. No other instruments, no other voices. That's going to be the arrangement. Can we do it? And he's like, well, let's try it. And so I picked a song called For All We Know. It's an old standard. A lot of us know the Donny Hathaway version. It was the first song my wife and I danced to at our wedding. So it was our song. And she had done so much work, and she was right there in the audience with her family. And so I sang the song with the bass player. For all we know, we may never meet again. Before you go, make this moment sweet again. We won't say goodnight until the last minute. I'll hold out my hand, and my heart will be in it. And on like that. She loved it. Third standing ovation. Here comes my wife flying on stage, bawling her eyes out, big hug and a kiss. I'm like, whoa, I'm working over here. This is inappropriate. This is some human relations stuff or human resources kind of thing. This is not okay. Anyway, the rest of the night goes fantastic. We get off stage. Everybody is super happy. The band is beyond, thrilled with what went on. Next morning, the second half of the conference happens. The symposium. I'm on the panel. I give my presentation. Everybody's happy. Everybody likes things. We're all good. We're flying out Saturday morning. Now, here is the epilogue to this story. And this is why I agreed to tell this story. Because otherwise, it's just me bragging about some awesome opportunity that we had. That's not enough. So Saturday morning, we get up early, about 3:30. We get ready to leave. The whole band, we all meet down the lobby. We Uber to the airport in D.C. We get all the way through the airport in D.C. We get on our flight. We get all the way to Chicago, where we have a layover at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. There's nobody in the gate when we get there at O'Hare. And so I still remember we were at United B2. That was the gate. And we get in there. There's nobody. You know how the gates are. There are rows of chairs and the windows where you can see the planes behind you. And there's a row of chairs right here against the window. And that's where we were sitting. So I'm sitting here. Cheryl is sitting here. Chad is sitting right here. And then Brian, the bass player, is sitting here. And at some point, Chad stands up and he's stretching his legs and he's talking to me. And he said, you know what, bro, you did good. You honored our ancestors. And they must be real happy with you today. And then he turned to Cheryl and he said, Cheryl, we know all the work that you did to get us here. We know what you put into this. Your ancestors must be real proud of you today. And out of the corner of my eye, I see my wife bend down underneath her seat, between her feet, and pick something up. And then she stands up, and I start to turn to her, and she says, look. And she holds this thing up, and it's a wedding ring. It's a diamond ring. I'm like, oh my God, baby, you better find somebody from United Airlines because somebody lost their ring just like you did, and we don't want them to freak out. Just let them know that we have the ring. And she said, you don't understand. This is my ring. I said, baby, I'm sorry. I know you're upset, but now you smoke and pupuli. That's not your ring. That can't be your ring. It's not sitting here at gate B2 at O'Hare. And she said, no, and she held it close to me. And she's crying now. And she said, look, and it's her grandmother's wedding ring. It's her ring. It's her, I don't know. So as Hawaiians, we live with one foot on this side in the here and the other foot in the hereafter. And for us, the ancestors are present in a real way. And I looked at Chad, and he was saying out loud this thing I was thinking, which was, he said, well, see, I told you the ancestors was happy with you. Anyway, my name is Boots Lupenui. I'm of Kohala and Waimea, and mahalo. I appreciate your time.